one of the main reasons, me personally, why I wanted to start a podcast was because I read a great book called The Best Ever Syndication Book by Joe Fairless. And he talks about having your own thought platform as a real estate investor, especially one that is going to be doing big stuff. Like, so this book's obviously is about syndications or funds or any major level, $10, $20 million deal type of thing. He said you need to have a thought platform. Welcome to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. It's Manny here. Ian and Janelle, unfortunately, weren't able to be with us this week, but a little about the three of us. We are real estate investors based out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. We have bought and sold over 60 units. We've done BRRRRs, we've done wholesales, we've done flips, we've done it all. So we're here to share our knowledge with you guys, and we release an episode once a week. And if you are enjoying our content and our videos, please go on YouTube, subscribe, give us a like and a comment. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, do the same thing, subscribe, leave a comment. We will respond to the comments. And yeah, we are just here to share with you guys. So we love all the feedback that we can get. In this week's episode, I talk about the benefits of starting your own podcast and why you should do it. So please enjoy. I got myself a new mic. So this will be cool to see when this comes out if the audio is a little better. And I'm also using a different external camera instead of just the one that's inside of my MacBook. So if the audio and visual is a little better this week, we'll have some good product coming out here in the coming weeks. Since it's just me this week, I'll try to keep this episode short and sweet. I'll give you a quick update about what's going on in my life. As you guys know, Ian and I have been buying some apartments in the United States, specifically Cleveland. We bought a 24 unit about 2 months ago, and it's going pretty well. There were some hurdles at the start, as there usually is when you take over a building with inherited tenants, but we had some vacancies, and now we pretty much have all of the vacancies filled, and we're also getting the rents quoted way higher than what we anticipated. So we were expecting, $1,100. We were happy with $1,100 rents. And we were getting some around $1,400. The lowest ones are like $1,166, so it's still even higher. So when we saw the $1,400 number, we were really ecstatic because that would make the deal an absolute home run. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you guys updated. And also, we were closing on 76 more units here at the end of the month. One of the buildings, it is fully funded and ready to roll. We're just waiting for the close date. And the other one, we just finished the raise yesterday to close, so we have the cash to close, and we'll continue to raise after the fact just to get the renovation budget and little things like that in. But everything seems good to go in that regard. So that'll be 100 units in just about 3.5-4 months of work, while concerted effort working as a team. So it's pretty exciting to see what you can do when you have a good team around you and you buckle down and focus and try to dominate in the market. And you can scale up pretty fast in the United States, especially certain markets like Cleveland. So I guess this is the 26th episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. It's hard to believe we started releasing these at the end of January. Now we are near the end of July. So I thought it would be a good time to kind of just take a step back and review. Because somebody asked me last week, Manny, how's the podcast going? Like, are you guys getting any traction? Are you having fun? And I'm like, that's a good episode idea. We can talk about the hurdles of starting a podcast, the good, the bad, the ugly. And there's not that much bad or ugly, to be honest with you, but we'll get into that. So again, I think we talked about this when we first started the podcast. I took some notes here, but one of the main reasons, me personally, why I wanted to start a podcast was because I read a great book called The Best Ever Syndication Book by Joe Fairless. And he talks about having your own thought platform as a real estate investor, especially one that is going to be doing big stuff. Like, so this book's obviously is about syndications or funds or any major level, $10, $20 million deal type of thing. He said you need to have a thought platform. And by thought platform, what I mean is YouTube channels, blogs. It could be your own Facebook group or a podcast, something where you can just give your thoughts out to the people, like in a public forum, so people get to know you type of thing. And so I thought a podcast would be a great way about it, especially because the three of us, me, Ian, and Janelle, have been listening to podcasts religiously over the past few years. So this would be a good avenue to kind of get our thoughts out and tell people about what we're doing. And it also adds to the legitimacy of us as a group, especially as investors. You know, when you hear somebody has a podcast, you're like, oh, this guy must be special. He must be doing something right, you know, even though that might not be the case. Anybody can start a podcast. And in that same regard, even though anyone can start a podcast, not many people make them that last. I think I saw a stat, I forget the exact numbers, but it was like less than 1% of podcasts that start get past episode 20. And here we are at episode 26 and we're going strong, you know? Like me and Ian talked about this a while back. It's like we don't really care that the numbers aren't crazy big at the start. Like if you look at Bigger Pockets when it first came out years ago, I'm sure the numbers weren't strong. It's the longevity aspect. You know, if you do this long enough, 5 years, 10 years, who knows, right? And then keep on doing what we're doing on the real estate side along the way, this will be something big down the road. So we're just kind of planting the seeds now and watering it and letting it grow. And one day this thing could be one of the biggest podcasts in Canada, hopefully. Another big reason why I think people should start a podcast is just for personal branding. You know, it's huge. We talk about this in the real estate world, how your social media game is so important. People need to know who you are. You need to be active on social. If you're not active on social, you're just kind of a stranger. Just look at Brandon Turner. You know, this guy, he's had a podcast, Bigger Pockets, for quite, a long time now. And people that listen to it feel like they know him. And they feel like they trust him because his brand is so strong, because they've been listening to him 1 hour a week for, forever. And there's, 600-700 episodes. So especially if somebody's starting off as a new investor and they just go back and binge watch hundreds of hours of podcasts, they're going to feel like they know this guy very well. And this very strongly helps with his personal branding. And, another aspect too is we get to share knowledge. That was actually one of my initial favorite things too, because when I first started listening to podcasts, or when I got into real estate, the people that taught me, I had my agent at the time. He was my mentor at the beginning. But the biggest thing for me was just like continuous education, just online, free education, YouTube, podcasts. I listened, I watched, I read books, all of that, to soak up all the information that I could. And now I'm able to share that with you guys through this podcast. And that makes me happy, because I remember myself when I was starting off, and I remembered, if I wanted a certain topic framed a certain way, I would have liked to present it in a certain way. So now I have the opportunity to give that back to others, and that's pretty sweet. And I really enjoy that. And in that same regard, I have people sometimes DM me on Instagram or Facebook, and they'll be like, hey, Manny, I got a question about this. And I'm like, guys, or ma'am, sir, whoever, whatever it may be, we recorded a podcast on that exact topic. To give you an example, I had somebody hit me up last week, and they're like, Manny, what do you think about unsecured prom notes? Should I do it? What interest rate should I charge? And I'm like, we have a thorough podcast on lending, secured and unsecured lending, and our thoughts on it. You should check it out. And then after you listen to that, you'll get my opinion. Now, my opinion has not changed on that since. I told him. So just give that a listen. It's only 20, 30 minutes long. You still have any questions after the fact, then come back to me. So it's that same idea. And somebody asked me just yesterday, like, hey, I got $100,000. I want to invest in real estate. How do I start? Like, we have a little mini series on this, how to start investing in real estate. So little things like that, it can help me save time, but also they now have access to that audio recording or that YouTube video, so they can just view it over and over. If take notes, you have a call with me, you take notes, you don't get to replay that call. But if you have the YouTube video or if you have the podcast, you can marinate on it. You can listen to it a few times and you can learn from it. So that's another great aspect of having a podcast. Also, it's not that hard to set up. We use a platform called Riverside. It's pretty user-friendly. Now, we could have edited it ourselves if we wanted to. I remember Ian and Janelle were trying at the start, and I didn't even offer, because I could tell I could have figured it out, but it would have been a struggle for me. It would have taken me 4 or 5 hours on top of the hour of the podcast a week. So it was not worth it was worth my time, but I could have done better uses with my time instead of figuring out how to edit the podcast. And there was 3 of us, so we could split the costs of hiring out the editing aspect, and we did that. But if you are just new and you're by yourself and you don't have, the capital to outsource the work, it really wouldn't take you long. Maybe a few episodes in, you'll get the hang of it and it would be easier. And then it's not that much at all. The startup costs just buying a new mic. You can buy a new mic, $100, a USB mic. If you want to get something a little nicer, you can get an XLR mic with a cable and some sort of stand and a little external audio box. You don't even need a nicer camera. Like, I bought one just to try it out, but the camera on your laptops are sufficient. So that's all you need to start up, a couple $100 and some time and effort. Another excuse some people use is like, I don't have anything to talk about. Manny, I don't know that much about real estate. I'm new-ish or whatever. I tell them, like, especially if you have been in real estate for a little bit, I'm sure you know stuff. People underestimate what they know. Go to ChatGPT, go to Bard, or any of these AI softwares and ask it. Ask it, hi, my name is so-and-so. Can you please spit out a list for me about real estate topics that I can talk about on my podcast? Please and thank you. Always be nice to the AI because they will remember. And then it'll spit it out for you, 10 seconds. There's 50 topics for you to talk about. Or another idea is have guests on your show. You go on Facebook or Instagram or wherever and make a post saying, hey, I need guests on my new real estate podcast. Is anybody interested? Your inbox will be absolutely flooded. I guarantee it. One thing that I have learned, and from personal experience, people that are in real estate love to talk about real estate. So if they have an excuse to now be on a podcast and just share their knowledge, share their journey, the vast majority of them will do so. So there you go. Like, you have topics and you have guests, and this can carry you for as many episodes as you really need. Now, what are some of the not so fun parts about the podcast? It took me a minute to really think this through. The only not so fun parts, scheduling maybe, especially if you're trying to get guests on and they're busy and you're busy, it can be kind of tricky. Or with me, Ian and Janelle, sometimes we try to schedule on Wednesday afternoons to record our podcast, but if one of us can't make it, we might push it a day. If we can't do that day, we might push it a day. But at the end of the day, there's 3 of us. If for some reason 2 of us can't do it, just like today, it's rare, but one of us will be able to record a pod and get it out. So it's pretty convenient in that regard if you have co-hosts. But if you're by yourself and you just have a swamped schedule, you're busy as hell for a couple weeks and you just can't find 20, 30 minutes to record a pod, and the editing aspect, if you're new and you're doing it by yourself, it can be tough. I understand that. But besides that, if you can outsource it, or if you have a couple of co-hosts, finding the time is not too bad. That is the only potential negative thing. Other than that, it's really all positives. And again, to finish off on a good note, I think it's just fun. I think if you started a podcast, you would enjoy it. It's like you get to come on here and just talk about cool stuff that you'd probably be talking about with your friends anyway, and you get to share it with the masses. And you get to share knowledge and have a good time, have some laughs, all of that. It's really great. Also, if you like to think, years ahead, it'll be cool to look back at yourself when you're 50, 60, 70 years old. Oh, look at me. I was young, 20, 30-year-old ambitious person trying to get it. And, or your grandchildren and your future children, they can look back and like, oh, look at my father and my grandfather out here doing cool stuff on the internet, because once it's on the internet, it's here forever. So it's a pretty cool aspect to think about in that regard. So like, yeah, I speak very highly of starting a podcast or a YouTube channel or something of the like. Again, like I said earlier, you can do a blog or a Facebook group too, though same idea, but the video and audio aspect of YouTube or podcasts, I think is superior. Yeah, that's pretty much it on podcasts. I think everyone should start one. The podcast world is definitely flooded with different types of episodes, especially real estate lately. But like I said earlier, not many of them last. Not many of them last past 20 episodes. So if you can be that 1% and just continuously release episodes and have some fun along the way, you'll float to the top and you'll be one of the best out there. Yeah, so I guess, we'll leave it at that. It's just me this week, so I didn't want to have a super long episode anyway. And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the 26th episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. I hope you guys got some benefits from that, and hopefully I will have motivated some of you guys to start your own podcast or YouTube channel or blog or something of the like, and really grow your brand and start your own thought platform and grow as real estate investors. Like I said at the start of the episode, though, please like and subscribe on all of the platforms, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and let us know what you think. If you want to reach out to any of us, don't hesitate. Book a call. We all have our Calendly links in our Instagram bios. So please, we look forward to hearing from you guys. But once again, thank you for listening to the 26th episode. All right, take care.